So we are reading Water by Dr. Batman Gilich. We are on chapter 11, page number 161 of the PDF.
Protein kinase enzymes are involved in manufacturing new proteins inside the cells. Proteases are a class of proteins that enzymatically break down already made proteins for their recycling process. This balancing process is going on in all the cells of the body all the time. If you exercise, you activate the enzymes for making new muscles. If you do not exercise, you activate the enzymes that break down already made muscles. In either case, water and the materials it normally transports play a major positive, or if water and the materials are lacking, negative role in this balancing process.
So again, basically this protein or this the enzyme is responsible for the buildup of muscle or the breakdown of muscle. This is also one of the reasons why, muscle mass, if you're not exercising a little bit and you start losing weight drastically, first your muscle mass gets, you lose muscle mass, and then the fat starts to dissolve.
Dehydration has another impact on these enzymes. The protease activity and protein breakdown inside the cells become dominant in persistent dehydration. The cells produce fewer and fewer cell membrane receptors that would keep up communication with the physiological commands from different hormones in the body.
So what does this mean? Fewer and fewer cell membrane receptors. These are basically the lock and key, which are there available on the membrane of the cells, where the hormones and chemicals actually go and log themselves in to give messages to the cell. Now, if there is dehydration, the receptors in the membrane of the cell start to reduce. So intercellular communication starts to get affected.
The process is called receptor downregulation. At a certain level of protease activity, the new class of protein manufacturing enzyme known as protein kinase N, which is more befitting primitive cell functions, becomes produced. It is this enzyme that drives the cell into incessant reproduction. If you want more information on this topic, you can review my article, Receptor Downregulation, on www.watercure.com.
Shivangla, we can't hear you.
Unfortunately, medical experts in cancer research have not understood the immune system suppression caused by persistent dehydration. It has not been realized that histamine can directly and indirectly suppress the immune system. When histamine is engaged in the drought management programs of the body, it suppresses its own direct influence on the immune system, even at the bone marrow level. This is an essential process. The role of histamine in drought management could otherwise constantly flare up the immune system. As it happens, this safeguard may become ineffective and give rise to conditions known as lymphomas, myelomas, and leukemia.
So again, dehydration directly results in basically cancers. All these are cancers.
The way excess histamine activity in persistent dehydration inhibits the immune system is simple. All the white cells in the body have histamine receptors. There are two major groups of white cells that are engaged in the immune system control mechanisms. They are known as helper cell and suppressor cell lymphocytes. There are twice as many suppressor cells in the bone marrow as there are helper cells. As their designation implies, the suppressor cells are there to inhibit any bone marrow manufacturing process. This is how inhibition of the role of the normal bone marrow activity within the immune system needs of the body is brought about when the body is dehydrated.
So again, if there's dehydration, then the bone marrow will stop producing, regular cells.
Another major inhibitory effect of dehydration on the immune system is the role of vasopressin as a strong cortisone release factor. With increased cortisone activity, two things take place. First, more interleukin 1, a chemical produced by some white cells, is produced. Second, this chemical accentuates tissue breakdown for the release of raw materials from the protein reserves of the body. It also accentuates the action of cortisone in the inhibition of interleukin 2 and interferon production. These two elements are vital for efficient defensive functions of the immune system.
So again, dehydration will have an effect, tremendous effect on the immune system.
They prime the cells that are on the forefront of the battle against infections, foreign agents, and aberrant cells that do not conform with the normal tissues of the body, such as cancer cells. The function of interferon is crucial to the immune system. It causes a local release of hydrogen peroxide and ozone, which kill bacteria and cancer cells.
So again, releasing hydrogen. So even when we were studying this, hydrogen breathing has become a big thing now in America, in Japan, where instead of breathing, taking in oxygen, people are actually breathing hydrogen. So they have hydrogen bars in Japan nowadays. So again, that is leading to hydrogen peroxide and ozone.
How does that work, Nikhil?
So basically, water is broken up into hydrogen and oxygen, and you immediately breathe that. So when you breathe that, you're breathing in free hydrogen and free oxygen, which combines into the in the system and removes the hydrogen, removes the toxicity in the body. And again, ozone also removes the toxicity. Previously, what was happening was that people were breathing more oxygen, right, to increase the oxygen level. But they've now found that hydrogen and oxygen, when taken in together, it works better. So we had these hydrogen making machines. We had installed them, but of course, very expensive machines. And then how do you get people to take them? We couldn't really do it. But I went to many bars in many places in Japan, in Tokyo, where they have hydrogen machines. In fact, I went to one cancer hospital where they have a bank of about 8 or 9 or 10 of these hydrogen making machines, and they're expensive. Each one of them was costing some 27 lakhs to bring it into India, at least, we bought it as baggage. But after the chemotherapy, all the patients were put into hydrogen breathing. And they found, the doctor who was there, he told me that the hair fall gets taken care of, and they don't have the adverse effects of the chemo treatment. So this is exactly what he's saying over here.
Thank you.
Scientists have for years tried to manufacture interferon for use in cancer treatment. What has been produced commercially has not worked as effectively as the natural form. Naturally, they did not realize that dehydration and its other immune system impacts should also be taken into consideration.
So again, whenever chemicals are produced outside the body system, the dosage and the time of the release of the chemicals cannot be as perfectly timed as the body system itself releases these chemicals, right? So that's why most of the time when we have synthetically manufactured chemicals, they are not as effective as the chemicals produced directly by the body system. And of course, over here, Dr. Batman-Gilich is very clear that all these issues result from dehydration. So whenever you're medicating anyone, hydration is something that needs to be considered at all times, whether we like it or we don't like it. But having said that, if you are having water retention, doctors will tell you to limit the water that you're drinking, right? I have found myself, because I was sitting so much in front of the screen, my water intake had dropped and I started getting edema in my feet. My feet started to swell up. I realized that and I increased my water intake and the edema has gone. So it's worked on me, right? But whenever someone is ill, they constantly restrict the amount of water that person is drinking instead of actually allowing the person to slightly increase the water intake so that the body does not go into drought management. But unfortunately, the doctors today, I don't know, in some cases, someone was saying that yes, they've started telling people to drink more water, but that's not normally the case.
Bhaiya, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
When this hydrogen thing is working so well for cancer patients, how come, is it very recent or something? Because
This
it
is
hasn't
about,
come into India.
it's about
Even
Tata. It's about 3 or 4 years only. They are doing it in Japan. It's not yet been popularized anywhere else. Because the efficiency level which the diffraction of the water takes place in a safe way, that they've developed tools in Japan. Other places, they've not yet developed it in that way. And there is only, I think, one guy who's doing it himself, right? It's a small guy. It's not a big company who actually making these machines. I met the guy also who's the inventor. He actually makes the machines himself. So there's a capacity restriction also.
My brother-in-law actually took ozone therapy at Kokila-Bain,
Hmm.
and but then he could not bear. It was a 45-minute session,
Yeah.
and he was extremely, I don't know, he started, knocking on that. They put them in a chamber actually,
Correct.
and he started knocking, I think, after 20 minutes only.
Yeah. So you
He
can
could
get
not-
claustrophobic in that chamber. It's sealed. It's sealed and that oxygen is put under pressure. So, it's not easy to do it. Ozone therapy. But hydrogen therapy is pretty easy. It's very easy. We used to have people sitting over here and doing it. And we had actually studied the blood also after and before the water, the hydrogen intake. And actually the blood starts to clear up.
Yeah, actually, isn't it that the restriction for edema is only when the kidneys are not functioning? Someone's kidneys are not functioning, then they tend to.
But the kidney also is not functioning due to dehydration.
Oh.
That's what he said in the book, right? So the point here is that if the body goes into drought management, all sorts of issues start to take place.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that you increase the water in one shot. You have to slowly increase the water so that the body realizes that the water is available and it doesn't get into drought management.
Right.
That is the basic idea. You need to increase water intake gradually and take it to the level where it works, right? And also what happens, water is a safe thing. It's easily passed out from urine, right? Now you'll find that if you're not having adequate water, then you'll get colored urine. But if you're having adequate water, your urine will not smell and it will be colorless because there's adequate drainage taking place.
Thank you.
With this explanation on the direct impact of dehydration on tissue transformation and cancer production in the body, I am convinced that water is the best naturally preventive and curative cancer medication in the world. If you have any doubts about this, you can refer to my published scientific articles now posted on the website www.watercure.com.
Shivangla, we can't hear you. You're not, I don't know what you.
When we wish to use water to help with cancers, we also need to provide the body with the right ingredients to correct the metabolic complications that have placed a depleting run on its raw material reserves. We also need to make sure that the body chemistry is directed towards a more alkaline state.
So again, what is he saying over here? If you are not consuming the proper food, if you're stressed out all the time, the body system will become acidic, right? And that helps the survival and production of stuff like cancer. So alkalizing the body system itself becomes very important in these matters.
When we wish to use water to help with cancers, we also need to provide the body with the right ingredients to correct the metabolic complications that have placed a depleting run on its raw material reserves. We also need to make sure that the body chemistry is directed towards a more alkaline state.
Shivamala,
Cancer-
slow down a little bit also, please. You're reading too fast.
Cancer cells are produced when the body becomes more and more acidic. Cancer cells are somewhat anaerobic. They do not like oxygen. In fact, oxygen is said to kill cancer cells. When water is available and brings with it all the defending agents and the needed ingredients, it also brings oxygen to the cancer cells. This is another reason why water is a good cancer medication. For more information, take a look at my DVD or video, Health Miracles in Water and Salt. Chapter 12. The Water Cure, How Much Water and How Often. Let me give you the single most effective prescription for well-being, improved health, disease prevention, potentially reversible stages of degenerative diseases, and finally, the best pain medicine in the world.
So now this is important, right? He's very clearly stating that water is the best pain medication in the world. The simple reason is that whenever the kachra, I mean the waste is not removed from the parts of the body, that is where pain starts to happen. So if you are having adequate water, the waste matter gets removed and it actually helps in pain management in the body.
It needs no doctor's prescription. It is freely available. It costs nothing. It has no dangerous side effects. It is the medication your body cries for when it is stressed. It is good old pain, natural water, ready cash for the industrial systems of the body.
Again, it is always free, right? Water generally. Now, of course, you have bottled water, but the bottled water is also acidic. So if we can get natural water, which is mineralized at a pH of about 7.4 to 7.8, that is the kind of water that our body system actually needs.
Every 24 hours, the body recycles the equivalent of 40,000 glasses of water to maintain its normal physiological functions. It does this every day of its life. Within this pattern of water metabolism and its recycling process, and depending on environmental conditions, the body becomes short of about 6 to 10 glasses of water each day. This deficit has to be supplied to the body every day. If you think you are different and your body does not need this amount of water, you are making a major mistake. The body uses up the equivalent of between 6 to 8 glasses of its total body water for essential functions. It needs on average upwards of half its weight in ounces of water per day, a minimum of 8 to 10 glasses. Water should be taken in 8 or 16-ounce portions spaced throughout the day. In the same way, you don't let your car run out of gas before you fill the tank. The body must not be allowed to become dehydrated before you drink water.
So now this is again something that many doctors say: when you feel thirsty, that time you drink water. But that is the last sensation, right? So we must be aware of how much water we are consuming through the day. It's extremely important.
Water should be drunk before meals. The optimum time is 30 minutes before eating. This prepares the digestive tract, particularly in people with gastritis, duodenitis, heartburn, peptic ulcer, colitis, or gas-producing indigestion. Water should be taken anytime you are thirsty, even during meals.
Now, Again, even during meals, he says, now, if you're not drinking water otherwise, then if you are only drinking water while you're having your meal, for heaven's sake, have it, right? But having said that, in the first paragraph, he clearly states that drink the water half an hour before your meals, right? So if you have 2 glasses of water half an hour before your meal, it is something which is the best thing that you can do for yourself.
Water should be taken 2.5 hours after a meal to complete the process of digestion and correct the dehydration caused by food breakdown.
So again, food digestion, right? Food breakdown also consumes water. So once that is done, you need to replenish the water in the body.
Water should be taken first thing in the morning to correct dehydration produced during long sleep.
So again, we all lose water when we are sleeping. Basically, even the breathing process, right? We are constantly releasing water through the breathing process. At night, many times you'll sweat. That time again, you release water. If you take your weight before going to sleep and you take your weight in the morning when you get up, there will be about half a kilo difference, right? Half a kg, there it will be, you'll be lighter by half a kg in the morning. You all can all test it, right? Approximately half a kg less in the morning.
Water should be taken before exercising to have it available for creating sweat.
So again, you're sweating, so you need to prep the body with water before you start exercising.
Water should be taken by people who are constipated and don't eat sufficient fruits and vegetables. 2 to 3 glasses of water first thing in the morning act as a most effective laxative.
So if you're not eating fruits and vegetables, naturally the fiber content in the body is not, and the food is not enough. So you tend to get constipated. There are many people, who don't go to for a big job, maybe 3-4 days at a time. Now that becomes very, very problematic because it's called apana in the Ayurveda, right? That toxic load starts to increase in the body system. So basically, you need to clear your bowels maybe 1 or 2 times a day minimum.
Water or fluids. Naturally, we wonder why we should drink water and not the pleasing and taste enhancing beverages that are now the staples of our modern society. After all, they are made from water and do the job of quenching our thirst, or at least we feel they do. In fact, much of the problem of bad health is founded on this misconception. As far as the chemistry of the body is concerned, water and fluids are 2 different things. As it happens, popular manufactured beverages contain some chemicals that alter the body's chemistry at its central nervous system's control centers. Even milk is not the same as water. Milk is a food and must be treated as food.
So only water is water. Any other liquid is not water. Most of the time, it is food. And when added chemicals are there, it can actually create a shift in the chemical composition of the body and land up creating problems. So like if you're having carbonated beverages, they say that for every glass of a carbonated beverage that you have, you need to compensate by having 10 glasses of water. So because to clear the toxic load that is created by having that aerated water, aerated soft drink, and so on.
The body needs water. Nothing substitutes for water. Coffee, tea, soda, alcohol, and even milk and juices are not the same as water. Caffeine in beverages. A cup of coffee contains about 80 milligrams of caffeine, and a cup of tea or one soda has about 50 milligrams. Chocolate also contains caffeine and theobromine, which acts like caffeine. Caffeine further dehydrates the body. You urinate more than the volume of water contained in the beverage. Caffeine blocks the production of melatonin in the brain. Dr. Kenneth Wright Jr. discovered the melatonin inhibiting effect of caffeine in 1994. This inhibitory effect of caffeine on melatonin production by the pineal gland of the brain seems to last 6 to 9 hours. Melatonin regulates the functions of the body during sleep. It induces sleep. Thus, melatonin inhibition is one reason why coffee induces wakefulness.
So this is the reason why when you have coffee, you don't feel sleepy.
Caffeine intake on a regular basis by pregnant women can increase the risk of producing low birth weight infants. It can even cause spontaneous abortion or damage to the fetus.
So again, if caffeine is causing dehydration and excessive coffee is being consumed by the mother, then dehydration will take place, which will affect the development of the feces. As he has spoken before in the book, right? He says when the fetus is growing, it needs a lot of water. Any child who's growing needs a lot of water for the growth process. So now if you're drinking caffeine and getting dehydrated, then naturally the fetus is going to get affected.
Caffeine inhibits the enzymes used in memory making, eventually causing loss of memory. It has been shown to inhibit the enzyme phosphodiesterase, which is involved in the process of learning and memory development.
So again, caffeine and also alcohol is said to damage the brain cells, right? So if the enzymes, etc., are not being produced because of caffeine and alcohol intake, then naturally your brain function is also going to get affected.
Caffeine can be toxic to brain cells. Some plants use caffeine as a defense against their predators. Caffeine toxicity in predators decreases their natural wit and ability for survival against their own predators. They forget how to camouflage themselves and become prey to their own predators. This is how the coffee plant gets rid of its pests.
So again, the coffee bean was actually developed by the plant as a protection mechanism. And then we found it and brewed it and we have started drinking it. But ultimately, it was actually used as a protection device. It was not meant as a stimulant, right? It was actually meant to be a depleter in the people who consumed the coffee bean.
Seniors and children should not take caffeine. It can affect their normal brain functions and their wit to survive may become less sharp.
So again, caffeine will dehydrate you. When water is not available, it will cause cortical inhibition, which will naturally sometimes create brain fog also. So naturally, you will not be at your sharpest. And in the short run, it may help you, right? But in the long run, it is not going to help you at all because you'll keep needing more coffee. I know for a fact, there was a time when I used to drink about 10 or 12 cups of coffee a day. And one day what happened was I got late in my regular routine and I didn't reach the office in time where I used to have a cup of coffee at a set time. And I was at home. I was sitting at the breakfast table. I just couldn't sit in the table. I went and lied down. Then Shivangla came and asked me, "You'll have a cup of coffee." So as soon as I had the coffee, I was up and about again. But what was the fact, right? That not having the coffee didn't allow me to function properly. I totally lost it. So again, what was the cause? It was actually dehydration. But again, when you take the coffee, you get stimulated. So you start moving once. But again, it will cause a depletion. So that's why unnecessary coffee drinking is not a very good idea.
People taking 5 to 6 cups of coffee a day are twice as likely to suffer heart attacks.
So again, Joe McMonaghan says that when they wanted to stress someone out, they made that person have 3 cups of coffee back to back, right? And the person got stressed out. And one of the major causes of heart attacks is stress. So if you're having too much of coffee, be aware that you're stressing your system.
Caffeine can damage DNA and cause abnormal DNA by inhibiting the DNA repair mechanism.
So again, through the principle of dehydration. If you are dehydrated, then your repair mechanism of your DNA gets affected.
Caffeine has been shown to cause genetic abnormalities in animals and plants.
So again, because of dehydration.
Caffeine attacks the brain cells' reserves of energy and lowers their threshold of control, so that the cells overspend from their energy pool. It indiscriminately turns on many energy-consuming functions to the point of causing exhaustion.
So again, this is something that we discussed again previously in the book. But what happens? The caffeine goes, it stimulates the cells, right? And because of the stimulation, the cells are using their reserve forces. But how long can they keep using the reserve forces? Ultimately, the reserve force also depletes, and then it causes a total crash. You totally crash down.
When brain cells that have been influenced by caffeine confront a new situation that demands their full cooperation, they have a shortfall of energy.
So again, when it is really important to tap into the reserves, at that time, there is no reserve to tap into. So we have to be careful about this.
This creates a delay in brain response, hence exhaustion and irritability after excess caffeine consumption. Caffeine may cause attention deficit disorder in young people who consume too much soda.
So again, ADD, ADHD, a lack of ability to pay attention on one thing, right? You're constantly flickering. So if you've not got the stimulant, you can't concentrate and focus on anything, right? So many people, to focus and concentrate, they keep drinking coffee, right? But ultimately what happens? The same amount of coffee is not going to give you that same result. So you keep having to increase the amount of coffee or increase the number of times that you are having coffee. The better substitute will be water. If you keep having water correctly, you'll find you'll be able to focus and concentrate better because it provides brain function. It helps the brain function, whereas coffee is inhibiting the brain function.
Water by itself generates hydroelectric energy. Caffeine in the same water stimulates the kidneys and causes more water to exit the body than is in the drink. This exhausts the brain cells' reserves of energy.
So again, dehydration because of the caffeine.
Caffeine-containing sodas with artificial sweeteners are more dangerous than those containing regular sugar.
So again, instead of having zero or sugar-free cola drinks, etc., it's better to have the normal sugar, right? Artificial sugar is not something that we need to put into our body system because the body actually cannot digest the artificial sugar and it has to be eliminated from the system, which creates a stress in the system again.
Caffeine-containing sodas with artificial sweeteners are more dangerous than those containing regular sugar. Artificial sweeteners are potent chemical agents that fool the brain cells by masking as sugar. Sweetness normally translates to the entry of energy into the body. The sweeteners through the taste buds program the brain to behave as if ample sugar for its consumption has reached the body and will imminently reach it through the circulation.
So what does this mean? The artificial sugar goes into the system through the taste buds and tells the body that energy is coming into the body. Now the body is preparing to use the energy, but the energy doesn't come. Now that creates a problem in the functioning of the body system.
Since there is strict control on the level of sugar in the blood, the brain calculates the outcome of the sweetness and instructs and programs the liver not to manufacture sugar from other raw materials, but to begin storing sugar. When the sugar that was promised through the taste buds is nowhere to be found, the brain and the liver prompt a hunger sensation to find food and make good on the promise of energy.
So what does this mean, right? So indirectly, what he's saying very clearly here is that if you are going to have artificial sweeteners, ultimately it will result in a hunger pang and you eating more than what you normally eat. So instead of checking your obesity, having artificial sugar is going to create more obesity in the long run. So it's better to have the normal sugar than artificial sweeteners.
The result,
Sorry.
Yes, Chachi, boliye.
Now this stevia has come out. No, it's a plant extract.
That is better.
Better.
That is better.
Create all these side effects. I think.
Yes, but then again, you have to be sure where the stevia is being produced. Is it being produced by artificial means?
Is it got
Is it-
chemicals or is it
Yeah.
plant-based?
Is it plant-based actually, right? How are you going to figure that out? That becomes a huge challenge.
the result is a state of anxiety about food. It has been shown that people who consume artificial sweeteners seek food and eat more than normal up to 90 minutes after the intake of the sweetener. This is part of the reason why more than 37% of the population is obese.
So they will eat more. So while they're eating, they're consuming less calories. But then what will happen is that they will ultimately end up eating more.
Caffeine containing diet sodas therefore constitute a sort of double jeopardy to the body in that caffeine causes many complications. While artificial sweeteners have their own detrimental chemical effects, decaffeinated diet sodas may be particularly harmful in diet programs, especially if the sweetener is aspartame. Aspartame has been implicated in the increased incidence of brain tumors and seizures.
So aspartame is really not good. Okay. In fact, we had one case, this young boy, he suddenly collapsed. And we didn't know what was happening, right? That time we had just got the dark field microscope. And in fact, I had done an experiment when we had gone to Japan to buy the hydrogen machine. And over there, they were showing us the tests on the dark field microscope that if you take hydrogen, then it opens up your blood cells. Now, while the guy was testing us, the guy was selling it to us as a, why don't you test your blood also? So what happened was that when we tested his blood, all his red blood cells has porcupine like things around his blood cell. And he was actually having a protein drink at that time, right? So we asked him that, okay, this protein drink may be causing your issue. So why don't you change your protein drink? And does it have aspartame? And it turned out that his protein drink that he was drinking had aspartame, and it was causing the breakup of the red blood cells. The same thing happened. This young boy over here collapsed, and we brought him here to the house, and then we tested his blood, right? The same red blood cells were there. So then we asked him, are you having any protein drink, etc.? He said yes. So we called the protein dabba from the box from his house, and there was no aspartame written. But then when we read the details and we Googled the other nomenclatures, other words that were written there, it turned out that those words said that it contained aspartame, right? And it was causing a problem for him. Then we told him that you change this. So this protein shakes, etc., which people are having, if it has aspartame, it is going to cause problems in the long run.
But
Right?
they
This is very clear.
camouflage a lot of ingredients also, right?
What?
They camouflage a lot of ingredients.
Correct.
also.
So you have to actually Google what terms they have put over there to actually see what it actually means. Otherwise, aspartame now, many people know about it. So they don't put it on the label. They'll put some other name on the label.
Alcohol in beverages. Alcohol in beverages causes dehydration. The kidneys flush water out. Alcohol prevents the emergency water supply system to the brain. It inhibits the action of vasopressin and causes brain cell dehydration. It is brain dehydration that signals as a hangover after you have taken a few drinks.
So very clear, right? Alcohol will cause dehydration. So it causes cortical inhibition. And that is what ultimately causes the hangover. So it is said that the alcohol kills brain cells. So how does it kill the brain cells? Through the process of dehydration.
It is brain dehydration that signals as a hangover after you have taken a few drinks. Alcohol can be addictive and functionally depressive. Alcohol can cause impotence. Alcohol can cause liver damage. Alcohol can suppress the immune system. Alcohol consumption may increase the chances of developing cancers. Alcohol produces free radicals, acid-like substances, that normally attack and damage some sensitive tissues if allowed to circulate freely. Among other things, melatonin is used up to scavenge these free radicals. This results in low melatonin content in the body.
So again, free radicals, right? Free radicals is HO in the body system. So when HO is there, then what happens is that these things are moving around and it causes toxicity in the body. Now, when you breathe in hydrogen, the hydrogen combines with HO to make it H2O. So it was found that when people were breathing hydrogen, they were urinating more because the free radicals were getting converted into water.
Alcohol addiction may be caused in part by dehydration of cell membranes, particularly brain cells.
So
Dehydration.
again, when the cells are dehydrated, they're looking for more water, right? Now, for an alcoholic, they get addicted to alcohol because the body is craving actually water, but they think they are craving alcohol. So then an addiction starts to form.
Dehydration promotes the secretion of the natural endorphins in the body, the addictive factor.
So again, stimulants is there, the endorphins are produced in the body, you start feeling a high, and then you get addicted to the high.
Now that I have mentioned alcohol, let me also tell you that most alcoholics are actually searching for water. Water has a natural satiety impact through the hormones motilin, serotonin, and adrenaline, which culminates in the enhanced action of the body's endorphins. Alcoholics learn that alcohol, through its stressful dehydrating action on the brain, will also cause the release of endorphins. This is how they become addicted to alcohol. If alcoholics begin to increase their water intake or reach for a glass of water in place of a beer or a shot of their favorite hard stuff, their cravings for alcohol will tend to decrease and they will be more likely to kick the habit with surprising ease.
So anyone who wants to kick the habit of alcohol is any alcoholic needs to actually increase water intake. Whenever they have a pang to have a drink a glass of water. That's the substitute.
The natural action of alcohol on the brain is an across-the-board inhibition of all its functions, including its pain-sensing centers. The inhibitory centers of the brain are depressed first. This is how some people get an emotional release in the presence of others from taking alcohol. If these people are by themselves, alcohol will probably put them to sleep. In short, alcohol is a depressant. Depressed people should not take it. Water, on the other hand, does not depress the brain and it provides a more satisfying and enduring high with lots of energy to perform whatever is desired.
So again, it puts you out of sync when you have alcohol, right? It makes you incoherent and then you don't know what you're doing, what you're thinking. It suppresses all functions of the body system. Having said that, now you cannot have a get together without alcohol these days. So again, it's God knows what's happening.
Juices and milk in place of water. Replacing the water requirement of the body with juices or milk causes different problems. Too much orange juice increases histamine production and can cause asthma in children and adults. Even the natural sugar in juices will program the liver into fat storing mode, a prescription for getting fat.
So again, too much of anything is also not good. Everything needs to be done in moderation.
Milk should be considered a food. Infants who receive formulated milk other than mother's milk need it in a much more diluted form than is manufactured at present. Non-breastfed babies should receive more water in their diet.
So again, this is very clear, right? Mother's milk is the complete food for a baby. But if you're giving formula, then you need to increase water intake. Having said that, many doctors are now advocating that the baby should not be given any additional water when they are having the formula food, which according to Dr. Batman-Gilich is totally wrong.
It has been shown in some autopsies that infants who were not on mother's milk had developed heart arteries that showed signs of cholesterol. It is true that milk is a good watery source of calcium and proteins for health maintenance. Yet, milk should not be taken as a total replacement of the water that the body needs. It should be remembered that cow's milk is naturally designed for the calf that begins to walk within hours of its birth. To give undiluted milk to babies or children who are not moving much may be inviting trouble.
So naturally, cow's milk is designed differently from our human mother's milk.
It is clear that the human body has many distinct ways of showing its general or local water needs, including its production of many localized complications such as asthma and allergies. Other drastic signs of the body's water needs are localized chronic pains such as heartburn, dyspepsia, rheumatoid joint pain, back pain, migraine headaches, leg pain when walking, colitis pain, and a most advanced sign of anginal pain. Complications such as hypertension, Alzheimer's disease, multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, cholesterol blockage of the arteries leading to heart attack and strokes, and diabetes may also be connected to dehydration. Ultimately, cancers, I believe, may also be a major health problem connected to a persistent water shortage of the human body. Chronic dehydration produces many symptoms, signs, and eventually the degenerative diseases. The physiological outcome of the sort of dehydration that produces any of the problems mentioned earlier in the book is almost the same. Different bodies manifest their early symptoms of drought differently, but in persistent dehydration that has been camouflaged by prescription medications, one by one, the other symptoms and signs will kick in, and eventually the person will suffer from multiple diseases.
So you can cover it up by taking pain medication and all that, right? But ultimately, it's not going to last because other organs will slowly start to fail.
We in medicine have labeled these conditions as outright diseases or have grouped them as different syndromes. In recent years, we have grouped some of the syndromes with some typical blood tests and called them autoimmune diseases such as lupus, multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, insulin-independent diabetes, and so on.
So many times when a doctor is not able to find out what is happening, they now start labeling it autoimmune disease, that the body is attacking itself and there's nothing we can do about it. So there is no cure in allopathic medicine for autoimmune diseases. But according to Dr. Batman-Gilich, it is all mainly caused by dehydration.
Medical research has until now been conducted on the assumption that many conditions which I consider to be states of dehydration or its complications are diseases of unknown etiology. From the presently held perspectives of human health problems, we are not allowed to use the word cure. We can, at best, treat a problem, and hope it goes into remission.
So again, any kind of so-called alternate therapy, right? Nowadays, allopathy has become the therapy, but what had existed before allopathy, the natural cures which were there, the so-called alternate therapies were the main therapy. Allopathy has been there for what, last maybe 200 years or maybe 150 years. Before that, allopathy was not there, right? But now what has happened because of FDA regulations and all that, the pharma sector providing so much money into the system, anything that is non-allopathic cannot use the word cure. You can use stress management, body rebalancing, uh, you can say treatment. Even treatment at times is not allowed. Any program that I attend anywhere, half a day is literally, if a 3-day program is there, half a day in America or in Europe is spent on basically taking care of litigation or court matters, the law, litigation, how to deal with the law resulting from what is it called, the word? When someone files a case against you, right? So it is dealt in protecting yourself from that. You cannot use certain words. If you use the word, you're bound to be in trouble. In India, it is not yet there, but I'm sure it is going to come soon.
From my perspective, most painful degenerative diseases are states of local or regional drought with varying patterns. It naturally follows that once the drought is corrected, the problem will be cured if the dehydration damage is not extensive. I also believe that to evaluate deficiency disorders, water deficiency being one of them, we do not need to observe the same research protocols that are applied to the research of chemical products. Identifying the shortage and correcting the deficiency is all we have to do.
So again, basically when chemical medicines are produced, they are always looking for a cause and effect, right? The testing process when they are creating medicines always has a control group, and there is something called the placebo effect. So any chemical which is sent out into the market has to be better than the placebo effect. So they have many testing protocols in place, right? But again, with water, you don't need those testing protocols. You just have to figure out where there is a deficiency and allow the water to go there. That's it. So allow the dehydration to be taken care of.
It is now clear that the treatment for all dehydration-produced conditions is the same, a single treatment protocol for umpteen number of conditions. Isn't that great? One program solves so many problems and avoids costly and unnecessary interferences with the body. The first step in this treatment program involves a clear and determined upward adjustment of daily water intake. Persistent dehydration also causes a disproportionate loss of certain elements that should be adequately available in the stored reserves in the body. Naturally, the ideal treatment protocol will also involve an appropriate correction of the associated metabolic disturbance. In short, treatment of dehydration-produced diseases also involves correction of the secondary deficiencies that water deficiency imposes on some tissues of the body. This multiple deficiency phenomenon caused by dehydration is at the root of many degenerative diseases.
So when dehydration is there, systems start to shut down. They all have to be taken care of and rebooted, restarted.
A change of lifestyle becomes vital for the correction of any dehydration-produced disorder.
So again, very clear, right? The shift may not take place by only increasing water. You also have to see how you are living your life, right? If you are increasing water, but you are increasing caffeine intake at the same time, then it's not going to work, right? So lifestyle changes also have to come into play if we want cures to take place.
The backbone of the water cure program is simply sufficient water and salt intake, regular exercise, a balanced mineral-rich diet that includes lots of fruits and vegetables and the essential fats needed to create cell membranes, hormones, and nerves insulation, exclusion of caffeine and alcohol, and meditation to solve and detoxify stressful thoughts. Exclusion of artificial sweeteners from the diet is an absolute must for better health.
So again, essential fats, right? So it's not necessary to eliminate all fat from your diet. In fact, in India, ghee was considered medicinal, right? So having ghee would not make you fat. It would actually add to the efficient working of the body system. Of course, the other stuff also that he mentions here, very, very important: fruits and vegetables, regular water intake, exercise, and balanced mineral diet.
It should also be remembered that the sort of dehydration that manifests itself as asthma leaves other scars within the interior parts of the human body.
So again, this is causing what he's saying is scarring. So this happens in the veins also, right? When there's a tear, when there is toxicity in the blood, it can cause tears in the veins and other parts of the body. Then the cholesterol goes as a band-aid, and when the cholesterol goes, more cholesterol starts getting added there, which again causes problems. So basically, the point is that if you're hydrated properly, this will also not happen.
This is why asthma in childhood is such a devastating condition that leaves its mark on children and may expose them to many different health problems in later life. My understanding of the serious damaging effects of dehydration during childhood is the reason I have been concentrating much of my efforts on the eradication of asthma among children. The first nutrient the body needs is water. Water is a nutrient. It generates energy. Water dissolves all the minerals, proteins, starch, and other water-soluble components, and as blood, carries them around the body for distribution. Think of blood as seawater that has a few species of fish in it: red cells, white cells, platelets, proteins, and enzymes that swim to a destination. The blood serum has almost the same mineral consistency and proportions as seawater. The human body is in constant need of water. It loses water through the lungs when we breathe out. It loses water in perspiration, in urine production, and in daily bowel movements. A good gauge for the water needs of the body is the color of urine. A well-hydrated person produces colorless urine, not counting the color of vitamins or color additives in food. A comparatively dehydrated person produces yellow urine. A truly dehydrated person produces urine that is orange in color. An exception is those who are on diuretics and flush water out of their already dehydrated bodies and yet produce colorless urine.
So diuretics may not be a good idea ultimately, right? The better way is to increase water intake to allow the body to move out of drought management and flush the water out. And of course, the color of the urine totally tells you whether you're hydrated or dehydrated.
The body needs no less than 2 quarts of water and a half teaspoon of salt every day to compensate for its natural losses in urine, respiration, and perspiration. Less than this amount will place a burden on the kidneys. They will have to work harder to concentrate the urine and excrete as much chemical toxic waste in as little water as possible. This process is highly taxing to the kidney cells. A rough rule of thumb for those who are heavy set is to drink a half ounce of water for every pound of body weight.
So again, if you weigh more, you need to drink more water.
A 100-pound person will need to take 100 ounces of water. Water should be taken anytime you are thirsty, even in the middle of a meal. Water intake in the middle of a meal does not drastically affect the process of digestion, but dehydration during food intake does. You should also take at least 2 glasses of water first thing in the morning to correct for water loss during 8 hours of sleep.
So again, 2 glasses of water early in the morning, as soon as you get up. You can stop here.